Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a high-speed drill for the application integration part of the AWS Solutions Architect exam. We're not covering the basics here. This is all about the patterns you absolutely have to know to pass.
So, picture this. You're in the exam, you're staring at a question, and suddenly, services like SQS, SNS, and Kinesis all start to look the same. It's a classic problem, right? How in the world do you pick the right tool when they all sound so similar? Well, here's the secret. It's not about memorizing a million tiny features. It's all about recognizing the architectural pattern the question is asking for. So, for the next few minutes, we're going to drill these patterns over and over until they're just automatic. You ready? Let's get started.
Okay, this right here is your mantra, your core memory aid. Let's burn this into our brains right now. Say it with me. SQS sends, SNS notifies, Kinesis streams, EventBridge acts, and Step Functions sequence. These 5 phrases are going to be your guide through this whole thing. First up, let's talk about the foundational patterns. Seriously, this is the bread and butter of the exam. We're talking about decoupling with SQS and fanning out messages with SNS. All right, here's our first scenario. You've got a web server that's getting slammed with traffic and a backend that actually processes all those requests. You need to make sure that a slow backend doesn't bring your entire website down. What do you put in the middle?
The answer is an SQS queue, always. Think of it like a shock absorber or a buffer between those two parts of your application. So for the exam, when you see words like decouple, buffer, or operate independently, your brain should just scream SQS.
Okay, let's throw a wrench in it. Now we're talking about financial transactions. And the keywords are super important here. Exactly once and in the exact sequence. You can't charge someone twice, and you definitely can't process a refund before the actual purchase. What changes now?
The answer is a very specific type of SQS queue, a FIFO queue. A standard queue is great for throughput, but it only gives you best effort ordering. For the exam, if you see the phrases guaranteed order or exactly once processing, it is always an SQS FIFO queue. No exceptions.
Let's switch gears to a new pattern. An order comes in. That one single event needs to kick off your inventory service, your shipping service, and a notification service, all at the exact same time. How do you get one message to a whole bunch of different places?
You do it with the SNS to SQS fan-out pattern. It's beautiful, really. You send one single message to an SNS topic. SNS then acts like a fan, pushing a copy of that message out to 3 different SQS queues. Each of your microservices then just happily works on its own queue, completely independent of the others.
All right, let's turn the volume up. Time for Section 2, High-Scale Patterns. Now we're talking about huge amounts of data with Kinesis and some pretty complex event routing with EventBridge.
Okay, the new scenario. You are drinking from a fire hose of data. Think thousands of IoT devices, or clickstream data from a huge website. The key phrases to notice are millions of records per second and in real time. What service can even handle that? That's going to be Amazon Kinesis Data Streams. This service was purpose-built for this exact problem, taking in and processing massive amounts of streaming data in real time. So if you see streaming, real time, and huge scale together, you should be thinking Kinesis Data Streams.
But wait, here's a follow-up. And this is a really common trick on the exam to make sure you know the difference. What if you don't actually need to write any custom code to analyze the stream? What if your only goal is to just load all that data into S3 or Redshift?
For that job, you use Kinesis Data Firehose. Data Streams is for when you're building your own custom applications to crunch the numbers. Firehose is the fully managed, easy button for just delivering that data. If the question mentions loading data into S3, Redshift, or Elasticsearch with almost no code, the answer is Firehose.
Okay, new situation. Your AWS account is always generating events, right? EC2 instance stops, a file lands in S3, all sorts of things. You need a central hub that can actually look inside those events and route them to different places based on what's inside. How do you pull that off?
The answer is Amazon EventBridge. The best way to think about it is like a central switchboard for your entire AWS account. It takes in events from basically everywhere, and then you write simple rules that say, hey, if an event looks like this, send it over to that Lambda function. It's all about that smart, content-based routing.
All right, on to our final set of patterns. This is where we get into managing really complex, multi-step processes with step functions and dealing with migrating older systems using Amazon MQ. Think about a checkout process on a website.
It's not one step. You have to check the inventory, process the payment, update the database, send a confirmation. You get it. Some of those things might need to happen in parallel, and you've got to handle errors at every single step. What service can possibly tie all of that together?
Oh, this one's a clear choice. AWS Step Functions. It lets you visually map out these complex workflows as something called a state machine. So here are your keywords. If you see orchestrate, workflow, multi-step process, or state machine, the answer is Step Functions, period.
And this is basically how it works. A state machine is just a series of states. You might have a task state that calls a Lambda function, a choice state that gives you if-then-else logic, and even a parallel state to run multiple things at once. It's how you build real logic and resilience into your apps.
Now, this is a super practical, real-world question for the exam. You've got a company with an older application they want to move to the cloud, but it's built on old standards like JMS or AMQP. They can't rewrite the whole thing. What's the lift and shift option?
The answer is Amazon MQ, and this slide makes the difference so clear. SQS and SNS, that's for new, cloud-native apps you're building from scratch. Amazon MQ is basically a managed message broker, like ActiveMQ or RabbitMQ that you use specifically to migrate existing apps with minimal changes. If you see JMS or AMQ on the exam, your brain should immediately go to MQ.
Okay, let's make sure all this knowledge is locked in. It's time for a rapid-fire review of the key numbers and common mistakes you absolutely cannot afford to make on the exam.
First number, 256 kilobytes. That is the maximum message size for both SQS and SNS. If your message is bigger, the standard pattern is to drop the big payload in an S3 bucket and just send a little pointer to it in the message. You have to know that.
Next number, 14 days. That's the longest an SQS queue will hang on to a message. And this shows a huge difference, right? SQS is a queue, it holds on to things. SNS is fire and forget, it just pushes the message out. If a subscriber is down, that message is gone forever unless you've got an SQS queue behind it.
Let's quickly run through the classic exam traps. If you need order, you have to use FIFO, not standard. If you need a message to stick around, you need SQS, not SNS. If messages are failing, you always use a dead letter queue, a DL queue. And if you're wasting money on SQS API calls, for goodness sake, enable long polling.
And that's our drill. So next time you see one of these questions on the exam, you're not going to see a confusing jumble of services. You're going to see a pattern. Is it decoupling? Is it a fan-out? Is it a high-speed stream? Or is it a complex orchestration? Recognizing that pattern is your key to the right answer every single time.